Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today's video, I'm going to be doing a super simple overview of the Trijicon Credo 1 to 10X LPVO. I say it's going to be super simple because I am no LPVO expert or magnified optic expert. Pretty newish to the game. I don't really spend a lot of time behind these things, but I am going to give enough points that maybe you are thinking about getting one of these or thinking about getting a Vortex Razor 1 to 6. You know, a lot of that optic is really kind of considered to be one of the benchmark LPVOs. And then also maybe if you're thinking about getting a MPVO, such as a 2 to 10. So stay tuned. Hit. Hit. All right, first things first, let's get the safety thing out of the way. So as you see, all three uppers that I have here, they are uppers only. They do not have any bolt carrier groups in them. They have no charging handles in them. They are a barreled receiver only. Unattached from the lowers, there is absolutely no means to have any type of firing mechanism, anything whatsoever. Even if I were to put a bolt in the chamber without the bolt carrier group, which holds the firing pin, there's absolutely no way these things could be fired. I say all that because some of the footage that I am going to be showing is out of the back of my house, facing across my neighborhood. I do live in a subdivision area. It's really hard for me to get footage at the range, so to get any type of meaningful footage, which is also going to be a little bit subpar, I had to do this from my house. So again, just so everybody knows, these are always disconnected for this video from the lowers with all the bolt carrier groups removed from them. All right, so back to business. So the Trijicon Credo 1 to 10X is Trijicon's latest offering in the LPVO market. Of course, they had the 1 to 4 out there for a number of years, then they had the 1 to 6. Then of course they had the 1 to 8 that upped the game to a front focal plane type optic, but that did come at the cost of quite a bit of weight. Definitely was a very chunky scope. I had a little bit of firsthand experience with it from my wife's uncle. Asked me to put together a build for him. Went with the 1 to 8, and I want to say that optic was about 28 ounces without a mount. So definitely very chunky. With the 1 to 10, brought that weight back down. It is now 21.2. Has a 34 millimeter tube with a 28 millimeter objective lens, and eye relief from 3.2 to 3.9 inches. Great scope. So this is my first front focal plane optic. I gotta say that if anybody who doesn't know the difference between them, what front focal plane means is that as you up the magnification, the size of your reticle grows with the zoom level. So if you have any type of holdovers in your reticle, it's only going to be good for full power magnification. They will not be the same for anything that's in between. You know, some people say it's necessary, some people say it's not. I think that technically, from my understanding of it, you know, I think most people, when it comes to LPVOs, are either at full power or 1 power. So that's up to you. But what's nice is that the Credo 1 to 10, typically front focal plane optics can add a little bit of more weight. They've removed that one from this scope. Earlier on in my channel, you know, I had videos that came out that had experiences or reviews with the Sig Tango 1 to 6. Then I got the Vortex Viper 1 to 6 PST, and then I ended up getting the Vortex Razor here. So primarily been running the Vortex Razor for a couple years. As like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, the Razor 1 to 6 is definitely considered probably one of the gold standards when it comes to LPVO, between capability, you know, quality, all the stuff that comes with that, along with price. And then of course, as other options have come out, you know, the Razor 1 to 10 came out. We started really kind of jumping up to 1 to 8s being more popular, and then 1 to 10s over the last couple of years. But 1 to 10s definitely do have their trade-offs. I think that when you are choosing an LPVO, you need to decide how you want to use it. You know, for me, I prefer to have something that's more like a red dot that has the ability to zoom in. Some people would rather prefer to have it be like a magnified optic that has the ability to be zoomed out and be used like a red dot. So both of these optics, the Razor and the Credo 1 to 10, are great. for close in distances that have the ability to zoom in. And I say that because of their brightness, daylight brightness, along with their eye box at 1 power, and their clarity at 1 power. So something that would kind of be considered the opposite of this might be like the Nightforce 1-8, the NX8. So from what I've read, I don't have any first-hand experience with this, but from what I've read and saw reviews on, it does great at 8 power, not so great at 1 power. So as I was considering getting an optic for the MR556A4 here, I wanted something that had a little bit more zoom. I had thought about getting another MPVO, and then, I kind of wanted for the purposes and roles and intent of this gun, something that was more like 1 power, but you could get some distance. So doing the research, Trijicon really stood out. I did have, like I mentioned, had experience with the 1-8. I do really like the glass clarity. I do really like the clarity at 1x, the forgiving eye box that it has, and then the reticle. The reticle is daylight bright, not quite as bright as the Vortex Razor, but you see in some of the footage I'm going to roll in, that it is definitely, I live down in the south. Footage that I shot is showing the sun starting to go down, coming in from the west, and I was facing the west. We see some of the glare there, but also taking it out the range. Went out in the sunny morning, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock time, and it was very visible. Red more so than green, and I will mention that the Credo 1-10, it does have both red or green reticles that you can kind of just change with the dial. I do feel like the 1 power capability is very similar between the two optics. Like I mentioned, the Razor does have a slightly brighter reticle. It is just a dot, whereas the Trijicon has a segmented circle, so when you're zoomed out to just 1x, it has kind of like the donut of death type. In the very middle, there is a small crosshair that when you're zoomed way out at 1, it may just look like a dot, but really the majority of what you see is that segmented circle. So kind of like an EO tag. So definitely is quick on target. And then as you zoom in, that segmented circle opens up, and then the center dot would be a crosshair. One of the other reasons why I say that this isn't the best for long distances, and I don't know this for sure because I'm not a long distance shooter. A lot of people complain that the reticle on the Credo is definitely not great. Doesn't have the finest holes on it. I don't know a lot of understanding of that. There's definitely other people's videos that could educate you a little bit more and tell you the differences. But I've always heard, or at least from what I read, that the Credo 1-10, their 10 power reticle is not as good for distance shooting as say some others. Some other big differences between the two. Size and weight are very similar, but the tube size and the objective size. Honestly, the Razor being 30, the Credo being 34, objective on the Razor being 24, objective on the Credo being 28. So the capability to allow more light in, better light transmission, that benefit definitely goes to the Credo. Something to take in consideration, you have the same size optic, at least length, and the weight is like 0.3 ounces apart. So I think Trijicon really knocked it out of the park with the 1-10 in that regard. So I'm going to roll in some more footage, and looking out my back window at the house that's in the far distance, that's 214 yards away. So can I get a decent idea of the scale between the garage door on that house, the garage lights. You get a pretty good idea of scaling, what you're going to be able to see with this zoomed in, a couple different ways. 6 power compared to 10 power. I also take the Credo and I dial it down to 6, so you can compare the field of view, the image clarity and whatnot. Between the two, more comparative, again, 6 power, and if I have that dialed down to 6 power, don't mind the shaky camera. I don't have the equipment like C does where they can make perfect, they have some type of setup that holds everything perfectly in alignment. I wish I did, but I'm not that fancy. So let me go ahead and roll that in. And again, I do want to mention that these are only barreled receivers, not connected to a lower, no bolt carrier group, so no trigger, no firing pin, nothing that could make this go off as a gun. With AR-15s, an upper isn't even considered a gun, it's the lower. But again, not anything in danger. I did also do some comparison video where I rolled in the Nightforce NXS 2.5 to 10. So again, top power magnification is more on the than the Razor. So in comparison to the Credo, again, 1 to 10 versus 2.5 to 10, though you do have a bigger objective with the 42mm objective, but also a 30mm tube similar to the Razor. So kind of comparison, seeing it between top 10 power between those two optics. Again, just for comparison purposes, I'm not going to really spend a lot of time on that. You know, I think you're going to get two different reasons why you may choose an MPVO over an LPVO, though I'll tell you that there are definitely some benefits of going with the MPVO. Again, better light transmission, you have side parallax focus. I would just recommend, if you're going to go MPVO, you're probably going to want to get something like a top mounted or a side mounted red dot for closer in engagements if you think that's what you need. All right, so then let's talk about price between the two. They're both pretty much about the same price. If you go to Euro Optic, which typically has their best prices, it's usually the first place I go to try to find an optic, and it is where I bought the Credo 1 to 10. The Credo 1 to 10 is $14.76, whereas the Vortex Razor is $14.99. So pretty much the same. And then the Nightforce NXS 2.5 to 10, that's about $1,700, so a little bit different. Of course, it's going to add more money on if you go ahead and add a red dot on top of that, like I do have on mine. So bottom line, if you're sitting on the fence, you're thinking about getting either the Razor 1 to 6 or the Credo 1 to 10, I'm going to tell you to absolutely go with the Credo 1 to 10. Really like this optic a lot. You get the same size, same weight, same price, with higher capabilities, better light transmission. I think if you really kind of want to pick things apart a little bit, you could say that the elevation adjustment isn't capped, whereas it is on the Razor. The elevation turret is also much taller than it is on the Razor, so if you're going to go with the top mounted dot, you may struggle with getting a mount for it or being able to clear the turret so you can see the red dot. You might be forced to go offset. I don't know. The Trijicon does have a included throw lever, whereas you're going to have to buy something, the switchback, if you buy the Vortex one, which adds another $60 or so. I never understood how they get their prices on that, but hey, whatever. But overall, I think if you want to get an LPVO that is daylight bright, that has a great one power performance, it's very forgiving eye box, and then you're trying to decide between the Credo 1 to 10 or the 1 to 6 Razor, definitely get the 1 to 10. Very, very awesome LPVO. Like it a lot. Hope this helped anybody out that may be trying to compare the two, or maybe even just want to pick up some points on the Credo 1 to 10. But if you liked the video, please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, hit the notifications button. All that stuff really helps the channel out in the algorithm on YouTube. And we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.